Just before this session starts, I would very much like to say a huge thank you to the sponsors, which are JBT, Cinepower, Aviarco GSE, Textron, and DBD Communications. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again with two more guests whilst we're focused on GSE and RAMP. And I'm happy to say two gentlemen who you will see how organised and how prepared they are, one by the backdrop. So Gennaro Carcassa, I hope that's not too bad, Gennaro. Gennaro is Director of Ops for GH Italia. So Gennaro, welcome on board, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We just got a lovely look there at those files. We'll come to those later on. We'll come to them later on. And
I think I'm going to throw them down.
Yep. And our second guest is Liam Bolger, who's the head of Airside Operations, London Luton Airport. Liam, welcome. Really appreciated.
No, thanks for the invite, Chris.
Yeah, and it looks like a very, very structured backdrop you've got there. You've chosen wisely.
Yeah, I'm at work today, Chris, so, there's no getting away from it.
That's it, yeah. Right, guys, listen, it's great to have you on. So before we get into a discussion, what I'd just like you to do, please, is each of you, if you can just give the listeners a little bit of an oversight as to your responsibilities and what you're currently facing, and how this damn crisis has affected you over the last 5 or 6 months. So perhaps if we can start with you, Liam.
Yeah, so I'm head of Airside here at Luton. I've been with the company almost 32 years. And I think in that time, the worst thing that I saw was the ash cloud, which closed us down for about a week. And I don't think I would have ever expected to experience anything like we're seeing today.
Yeah.
It's and for something you can't even see. It was nearly like the ash cloud. You couldn't see that neither. But this has been a totally different experience and a lot more serious to the industry as well. My responsibilities here really, we've got 150 companies operating Airside. I've got 78 staff of my own, and we basically look after the entire Airside operation, safety, wildlife control, all the regulatory stuff that you would expect. So very broad remit, but I think at Luton we've got a fairly good stakeholder engagement as well, which is great.
Which is good, yeah. No, very good. Thank you very much, Liam. And now Gennaro.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. GH Italia is a mother company. I work in UK for GH Italia in UK as GH London. That is the subsidiary company responsible for coordinating all 3 stations, London Heathrow, London Luton, and Birmingham Airport. Been in the business for the last 35 years, working for GH Italia for the same amount. And obviously, as everybody in this business knows exactly how bad the impact of this virus has caused. And as much as we see the glass half full, it's hard to see the immediate future, exactly how things will be, or how things for this business will be looking. I think we are in the, I think we paid as more as anybody, probably aviation in general, and all the subcontractors in general have paid a very high value in terms of traffic, in terms of not knowing exactly what is the future for us. And that's about it. That's for now.
Yeah, no, it's a very tough time. I remember before the banking crisis, everybody used to say, if you've got any money, put it into bank shares, it'd be the safest place for you, and then those who did, including myself. So that was a bloody waste of time. But it still hasn't recovered. And then, for anybody going into a career, they would always say, yeah, but everybody has to fly somewhere, people on meetings. Nobody would have ever imagined such a terrible thing. It's incredible. Now, with the effect of this terrible crisis, obviously it's important that for anybody looking from the outside in, and anybody already working within, the most important thing in our industry is safety, 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 and that's the strongest pillar of what we do. So safety is so important. Now, gents, just very quickly, just to start us off. Now, with SMS, with human factors, and with people coming back from furlough and having anxieties and stress and all sorts of worries on their mind. Obviously, you guys have got some additional focus now to make sure that they're trained properly, they're supported properly, that they're engaged and they're aware that it's a different environment. How have you actually addressed those particular issues?
Well, I think here from an airport perspective, we never actually closed throughout. I think we only one of our ground handlers stopped operating for a period. Gennaro's team were here all the time because Wizz Air were active, and we had some cargo which kept Swissport occupied. So we had that going on, and we had some GA traffic, but still nothing like it was like a ghost town here for the most part. It was pretty bad, but I think when we had a 550% jump from June to July. So that was quite a considerable jump, and then bringing people back. Now we're talking low numbers from what we're jumping from, but we were bringing people back. So we've got what we call the safety stack at Luton. So we're very big on collaboration anyway, and we have been since 2017, since we started that, because that's the only way forward. Really, if you can't talk safety unless we're all communicating, and we started, and we still run it. Actually, we had a startup group. Now it's just, we call it the stakeholder collaboration group. We were meeting 2 times a week, and we were working as an airport. We were working alongside the ground handlers, making stands available, getting people out. The ground handlers, in fairness, did some classroom stuff, but our approach was like, if you go on holidays for a fortnight, when you come back and you jump in your car, it doesn't feel like your car for a little while, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
It takes you a bit of time to get back to the field. So what we focused on really as part of that group was getting people back in to get the feel of the equipment and to get them familiar with the airfield again.
Yeah.
Because even if you're away for a fortnight, and some of these people were away for 3 months, and some more, just to get back so that we wouldn't be starting cold. And actually, safety performance was really good as a consequence. So it gave people the opportunity just to get the feel for it again. And it was challenging for people, coming back as well.
Yeah.
It's been a really challenging time, but what I would say is that, the airlines were involved, the ground handlers were involved, the fuelers were involved, all these parties were involved, and there was no shyness about getting stuck in and doing the right thing for the people that was coming back to work as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like you said, you mentioned the word collaboration there, and it's so important. And Gennaro,
absolutely. Yeah, I can witness this because since 2017, when we actually made our step into London Luton Airport, that has been one of the most valuable things that I actually picked up and I had a chance to work with. Liam is one of those persons that I had a chance to meet and to build up this our relationship, and it has been built in terms of collaboration. I mean, that has been the unique word and status of our day after day operation. And I must admit, especially during the furlough time, is when we used to have, as Liam did say, we had twice a week we had our meetings, and it was a good way to obviously keep focus on what was going on and how things could proceed. And it was a brilliant idea to make sure that anybody coming from furlough, in any case, would have a trip on the Cobus. Around the airport, because in the meantime there's been a lot of work in the meantime that's been going on, and there's stands and directions that have changed and everything, and then we had area stands just dedicated for training. So we had steps approaching belts, GPU, a little bit of pushback, And all these little things made a very a good safety entrance for everybody once operations started to pick up again. Because let's not forget that it's true that we did not stop operations, but we're talking about from 70 turnarounds down to probably 8-9 turnarounds, and bringing people back in between June and July. The pickup we're talking about, we grown in a few weeks from 10-12 turnarounds back up to 50-60 turnarounds. So that was pretty a very strong and fast effect.
Yeah.
In terms of keeping track of the safety for everybody.
Yeah, and with that sort of, well, I mean, it's part of life now, and I think especially now we're gonna go into a very tough 7 months for the industry everywhere. But this business continuity and sustainability, and balancing the cash flow, etc., is going to be a lot more challenging than ever before. But the fact that now people are going to have to learn to contract their business model and then build it up quickly again with very short notice, there's a different way of managing and a different way of leadership now for people to take on board. Are you doing anything? Are you doing anything to support the people that are going to have to lead others through these, challenging times? Are you changing the training model or the content or the focus?
I think we are. I think what we're doing is we're involving as many people as we possibly can. You mentioned human factors earlier. This is a real tough time for people as well.
Yeah.
These things, there's a lot going on that you don't see.
Yeah.
What's going on in people's minds, how this is having an effect on them. People that are working here have partners at home that have probably that may have lost their job too. And I know there's quite a few of them that work for me where their partners have actually been made redundant. So, their income's decreased. We're tight on costs. We're trying to save money. Everybody, if there was ever a time that we were in it together, this is it. And I think this is a real opportunity for people to reflect and think about just how reliant we are on each other.
Yeah.
And certainly, the real boss in all of this is the person that's buying the ticket. Because if we can't get that, there's no need for any of us. And I think, that's a good realization. And why would you not collaborate? Collaboration is something that people are, collaboration's a wee bit like it's the dodo of aviation. A lot of people talk about it, but it's hard to find it.
Yeah, yeah.
And my hope would be when we step out of this is that we see a lot more of it. Because, who delivers the London Luton Airport brand if it's not all of our ground handlers and all of those people that are providing those frontline services that passengers are connected to? There's a direct face-to-face here.
Yeah.
And not to acknowledge that, and not to be a part of that, and not to want to do better in that area, and certainly as an airport, it's just madness.
Yeah, 100%.
You should absolutely care about this, and I think here we do care about it. We are definitely working together and working very hard to keep everybody together if we can. And unfortunately, Chris, we're just, we've all had to say goodbye to people. I can only hope that, and I guess the one thing for us was, and the one thing that I think is heartening for us, is that we bounced back really quick because of the traffic that we have. So, the Wizz and the EasyJet, the low cost, the guys that want to get going, there's no inhibitions. We just want to get going again. It's been a big help to us, and I'm hopeful that when this is coming to an end, that we bounce back just as quick. But you're dead right. There's going to be a challenge here, because these people that we've had to say goodbye to temporarily, at least anyway, is getting them back in and getting going quickly. And that's going to be the next big challenge for aviation is this, whenever this does come to an end, and it surely will, people are going to want to get moving and quickly.
100%. And one of the things, just as an aside, one of the things I'm trying to do and trying to get people to do is keep in touch with the people that have been displaced by providing certain training opportunities for them, so that if, and as soon as possible, please God, when they do get the chance to come back, they don't feel alienated even more because they've been left out of what's going on, So I think as a community, all of us, we should be looking to pull together and try and do something for those people, because we want them back, and they want to get back, because most people in this industry, irrespective of how you came in. You know, very few want to leave it, and you know, it's something that gets into their blood. So, you know, touch wood, please God, something good will come from that.
And hopefully, Sean, I think that's a great point, isn't it? Because, you know, I've seen groups start little WhatsApp groups, you know, and keep in touch through all of this. And maybe there's a need for us to think about that, you know, Gennaro. I think maybe longer term, couldn't we start something like that? And even people that we're saying goodbye to us, keep in touch with them and let them keep them up to date with what's happening, because they're going to struggle to get work outside of this. Everybody's hurting. It's not just aviation, but everybody around us is hurting as well. It's a really good idea that actually to do that and do a bit more of it.
Yeah, maybe we can cover that. We can cover that offline. I'll tell you what the idea is. Now you mentioned Wizz and you mentioned EasyJet, and again, I think it's going to be a lot easier for the LCCs to get back as soon as things happen. A, because of the consumer confidence, and that they'll prefer a point-to-point and simple journeys. And like you said, Liam, I definitely think after this 7 months, and once the first introduction, irrespective of to what target group the vaccines start to come in, I think as soon as things open up, people will just want to get away. They'll want to do the things that have been withheld from them. They'll want to make memories again. And I think it'll be a very, very rapid reboot, which is what I hope. Now, as far as you're concerned, Gennaro, I know like Wizz Air were doing really well, even through the worst period of time. And even they've had to, you know, cut back now on their expectations. But as far as customer confidence or consumer confidence is concerned, one of the things that I just like both of your respective opinions on is there's so many different things happening in different airports that consumers are now a little bit confused, because they're not sure, why does it happen in one airport and it can't happen in another? Why is a different airport focusing on certain things that another airport doesn't? And surely, whether it's through ACI or whatever representative bodies, or whether it's to do with point-to-point tunnels or pipelines, airports now need to get that consistency in place to make sure that the consumer isn't confused with the type of hygiene, the type of sterilisation, whether they see a robot on the floor or whether, you know, I think there has to be a consistency there.
This is the weakest point, Chris. You actually touched the weakest point of all what's happening in our industry. I'm a consumer because I traveled every week. I was backwards and forwards between Italy and UK. So I consider myself a true consumer. And I don't feel comfortable to travel myself because I don't know what to expect. I'm leaving from my city, or going to Heathrow or going to Luton. And I really don't even know what to expect if by any chance from one day to another, the government might decide to close the boundaries and you find yourself in a quarantine for 14 days. As you said, you don't know what kind of soap everybody's using. You don't know what kind of disinfectant everybody's using. You don't know if the mask is obligated from since you leave the house, or it's obligated while you're in the airport, on board the aircraft or not. So all these items put together, I'm the first one that doesn't want to travel. I don't feel comfortable, not for the airplane, not for traveling on board the aircraft, but exactly what I'm going to go through, meaning before I depart and when I land.
Yeah.
This is the biggest issue, I think. And IATA, I think, we should have all together be much, much stronger by together bringing up one procedure for everybody, if it was, or it could have been possible.
Yeah, and I think ethically, and you know, you're looking at some of these league tables now where people are showing themselves to be stronger because of what they're doing on the hygiene level, and I just think that's not right. I think, you know, people should be more, as we used the word collaborative before, and consistent, so that the consumer can actually see. And what you mentioned there about being on the aircraft with the HEPA system and everything, that's probably one of the most cleanliness of
exactly.
But it's the 500 to 600 touch points that everybody has to do from when they leave home to when they actually get on the aircraft.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, they're a huge challenge for anybody. You know, we spend a lot of time, you know, ensuring that people are complying just with wearing face coverings, you know, and my experience throughout this, Chris, is that, even outside the airport, you don't have to go to extremes to protect yourself, but you do have to conform to some of the basic principles.
Yeah.
And I think they're set out very clearly. I think, I haven't seen an airport yet that's not trying to do that and do it in some form. And I think, the general public, I think there's been a lot of confusion about that, about getting people behind it. But I think from an airport's perspective, we've done, I think, everything we possibly could do within reason. And, we saw, a bit of hope there. And, we haven't experienced a lot of cases, positive cases at the airport, but you would think then, if this is all happening, we would experience that. And that's not been our experience, but we have been working hard in the background to make sure that we don't create an environment where that could happen to us. And I think every airport's invested a lot in doing that. But you're dead right. I think what I would have loved to have seen was greater consistency across Europe in terms of aviation.
Yeah.
And a standard set across airports that we certainly could have helped. But, I don't have the whole picture. I know testing's been problematic. When you're not working with all of the data, it's hard to say exactly what's holding up. I think, that there are people that have a greater insight than we would have, that would, and a greater understanding of what the problems are. I don't have them. I just know that, when what we have tried to do all the way through is comply with the guidance from the PHE and WHO and government and say, look, we're going to do this and we're going to do our best. And we want people, airports and airlines and ground handlers want people to feel comfortable. We want them to come back.
Yeah.
So there's no shortcuts in that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I just feel that even before this, passengers used to complain, why do I take my shoes off in one airport? Why do I have to take my laptop out in another?
Oh, yeah.
Why do I have to take my watch off in one? And I think there are reasons, because obviously the amount of throughput, the type of equipment, the X-ray facilities, etc. But I don't think there's been enough education and awareness. And I think that's something that we've got to do better now moving forward as an industry, because people are looking at us a lot closer.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think not just in those things, but in everything, airline, ground handling procedures. We started here as a team here, as an Airside community, to start to standardize underwing procedures.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got their own. And it's not too bad at Luton, but how many cones do you need? I know one airline that on the 777 got up to 18 cones, and they were put out because somebody hit the aircraft in that particular spot, or went onto the belly and knocked off an aileron or whatever. So the next move was to put a cone out, and never look at addressing the issue that got you there. Yeah. What's happening here? Why is that happening? Let's fix that. Nope, we'll invest in more cones because that'll fix the problem.
Yeah.
Until they hit somewhere else, and then you need to buy another cone.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
And and I think this is a great opportunity. And I was kind of heartened to see that, a few airline people had gone, this is a time to reset and really look at what we're doing. What are we doing? Are we making this any easier for people? We definitely weren't. And one of the reasons that we got into Pullin was to make this easier for people. It wasn't to make it harder, and it wasn't to throw our weight around. It was to make it better.
Yeah.
A better experience for the ramp teams and a much better experience for the airlines and passengers.
Yeah.
And that's why we got into it. We didn't get into it for any other reason, other than it was a mess.
Yeah, no. And it's a topic that, some airports and some handlers, etc., they'd say, pooling causes so many problems and people don't understand, and if the right equipment isn't available, or if there's delays, and how do you prioritize? So there's all of those questions that need to be answered. But from your perspective, it's worked out quite well. So between the two of you now, can we go through now? How did you actually come to decide on setting up the pooling services there in Luton?
Well, I'll tell you why it came around was really, there wasn't a day passed here, Chris, that we wouldn't have had anywhere between 40 and 80 calls into the operations centre. Now, bearing in that, at that time, we only had 2 ground handlers.
Yeah.
So we'd have about, probably an average of 60 calls a day, say, into the ops centre. One service provider complaining that equipment was blocking their access to the aircraft. It was just non-stop. And we had some discussions with the guys on the ramp going way back. This is about 2014. And they were just fed up with it as well. They just said, surely we can just share equipment, like a no-brainer. Do you know what I mean? It was like, why can't we do that? And as an airport, we were just fed up with it. It looked awful, as well as, and the fleet mixed, from anywhere from probably 40 years old down to maybe brand new on a lease, and it was just looked bad. And for Luton especially, 90% of our passengers walk to and from the aircraft. We don't have air bridges. We're a low-cost hub. This is how we operate, and that suits our airlines. So here you had passengers on a busy morning having to negotiate their way around steps and stuff that weren't being used. Yeah. So an aircraft only needs steps on the front and back, and then you'd go to a stand where they had 6 steps because the airlines wouldn't agree on the make of steps that they wanted used on their aircraft. Yeah. So we're not that big, but you had an airline wouldn't use a particular manufacturer's steps. They wanted another one. Yeah. So here you go. And we had all of these issues. So it looked really bad. And we just said as an airport in the end, we can't grow. We can't grow as an airport in any sort of a way. We hadn't got the space. Yeah. So we couldn't bring anybody else in as the passenger numbers grew. And we for many years we were the fastest growing airport in the UK. Yeah. That's so we couldn't go anywhere, and we just made a decision that we're going to share equipment, and it wasn't, and it there wasn't going to be a lot of talk around that aspect. What we did talk around was what kind of equipment you would like. What's going to suit your program the best, and there is the people that are hardest on it are the people that haven't actually come and experienced it. So I'll give you an example. Last year, for the entire year on pooled equipment, we had 889 minutes of delays on pooled equipment for the entire year. August 2016, we had 830 minutes of delay on equipment for August alone. Yeah. So nearly, 1 month was really a full year, So you can't argue with that. Incidents down. The guys are happy about their work. One of our ground handlers has the most efficient door 1 and door 2 opening times for their airline across all of the airline's networks, which is about 152 different airports where they operate from. And they can do that because there's no other equipment in their way, and we can set up the equipment that helps them. And that particular ground handler was able to generate about 250,000 additional income from meeting the SLA in a year.
Which is and that's no mean task. Now, as far as that's concerned and the benefits, I take it you've got all of those positive data indicators that are available.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm more than happy to share them. I do presentations on it all the time.
Yeah, I'd love to have a look at that. Irrespective of the listeners, I'd love to personally have a look at that.
Absolutely, and we learned so much, and Gennaro would back this up too. We didn't know at the start. So 2017 was the first bit of equipment. We rolled out the first bit in January 2017, and I didn't start out from an environmental perspective. I just started out from a congestion perspective. And an aesthetics as well, if you like. It was just looked awful, and it was awful. And we started rolling this thing out, and we have learned. We have a Pullin meeting every Thursday still. Yeah. And we started 2017. Here we are at the end of 2020. We still meet once a week. A Thursday morning we get together. I come in on it nearly all the time. There's seldom I'm not there unless I'm on leave or have another meeting. But we started off and we had a little luck. towards the end of 2017, there was an issue raised about GPU usage and stuff like that. And I said, do we check GPU usage? Do we look at that? So we started looking at that in early 18. And in a month, right, by going around at night and looking at what was happening, we cut fuel by 40%. GPUs left running doing nothing.
Yeah. Which also from the environment, it's
well, all right, the telematics weren't capable of dealing with that or telling us, but here you've got a GPU running, and these are the most efficient ones. So they're 4 liters an hour offload or 8 liters an hour unload. So a lot of fuel for a ground handler to be losing. That's a lot of money. A lot of money.
Okay. Sorry, and Gennaro, from your perspective, so what started off as basically, how to address the congestion, and then the other benefits like on-time performance, capacity issues, and also safety issues, and now we're seeing environment issues. What's your experience been of the Pullin? Were you apprehensive at the beginning because you've got experience on the other models at other areas?
No, Chris, because I was lucky because when we made our way in Luton, the Pullin had already started. So it for us was a great deal having to pick up an airline dealing about 15,000 movements per year and having already a percentage of ground handling already in place, meaning the Pullin.
Yeah.
So we started from scratch at the time, so we didn't have to think about much of GSC. We just had to think about the people. So that was the big, huge and great impact that we did have when we made our way into Luton.
Yeah.
The beneficial, I could think, and I think Liam has the same picture that I did have on my desk, was if you can picture a Ferrari at a pit stop, changing his tires and refueling all in a matter of a few seconds. That's exactly what I can picture when we see Pullin and all the GSC positioned, ready to serve an aircraft once it arrives. So I hope this gives you a full understanding of what Pullin means in this. In our
I
case.
hate OTP. I don't know about you, Gennaro. I just hate OTP because there's so many things affect that.
Yeah.
It's not reflective of ground handling performance.
Yeah. Not
really. An aircraft comes in late. These guys are expecting, say, 6 aircraft in that hour, and they're stuck with 10.
Yeah.
How do you measure OTP in that? It's just a nonsense, But when I look at we kind of created a wee measure of our own where we use a call for push and start, and we look at the performance compared to OTP and ground handling performance. The ground handler's performance sits at least never usually any less than 10% above OTP and usually around 15%. So but they're measured. Everything they do is measured on something they've got no control on. So I'm not a fan of that. I never look at that in terms of even Pullin, although I know, I wouldn't have done Pullin if I didn't think it was beneficial. And I think, Gennaro, one of the big things here is on cost. This is the argument, the guys on the ramp love it. When you start to get into the boardrooms, they're a little more skeptical. First of all, they think, they see it as a threat to their industry.
Yeah.
And if I wanted equipment tomorrow, I can go to any number of equipment providers and say, I've got a contract, show them the contract, and I'll bet you if I didn't even have a dime, I would get backed.
Yeah.
That's the market that's supposed to be so hard to access. No, it's not. And my next observation is, you know what the market's like in the UK. Who actually wants to enter it?
Yeah.
I think most people like to get out of it.
Yeah, no, that's true enough. Now, as far as the Pullin concept, and everybody when they hear the word Pullin and airports, they think they're losing control. They think there's going to be more conflict, etc. But they also look at it as a holistic event that takes place almost the next day, whereas you guys did it in a phased approach, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
and still doing it. Gennaro can give his experience, and he was there for phase 2A. We consult a lot on this, don't we, Gennaro? It's like it's not
Absolutely.
it just doesn't happen to you.
It's been a step, day after day step. We started with with the belts, with the steps. I mean, that was the first approach that we did have, and you have chance to practice. You have chance for the crews to understand what they mean by servicing, having equipment on the stand. You understand the safety, because that's how much safety you can't imagine in terms of safety percentage of between injuries and accidents that have not been any more addressed, neither to the airport, neither to the handler. If you think that there's no movement, there's no hunting for equipment, because once you get there, you're ready to serve the aircraft. You have everything in position. What more do you want? I mean, it keeps everybody, I think in general, it keeps everybody pretty relaxed.
Yeah.
On the job, but relaxed. Because one thing is having to hunt for equipment and rush and get there on time, and one thing is finding everything there. And
I think it's been really important, Gennaro, that your teams have had a say in what we get and what we use and how.
Oh yes.
It's not.
Those Thursday meetings that we do have every Thursday. I mean, that's another step where you get the experience from the handler, you get the experience from the GSC provider, you get the experience from the airport, and all three together. That's where you address the next beneficial that you want to meet.
And I suppose, I know that you would have gone through a rigid procurement process when you were looking at who was going to supply and maintain all of the equipment. So when TCR were appointed, that would have gone through a very rigid process.
Oh yeah, and we had all the ground handlers involved in that, so they set the specification for the equipment, and we went to competitive tender.
Yeah.
We went OJU tender, and at that particular time there wasn't a lot of people, but certainly the people that did respond, TCR were they were used to this game.
Yeah.
And they were head and shoulders above, and they came up with a pricing structure that did a price per turn. And the one thing nobody ever flinched at was what the price per turn was. I was even surprised that it was so low.
Yeah.
I did, because I didn't really know what it was going to be. But the criteria that I set in my own mind at that time, Chris, was that, this couldn't be more expensive than leasing. Now, we've got to understand that the equipment's been shared, so it's going to do 100% of the work.
Yep. Yep.
But here's what we discovered, that ground handlers generally took in far more equipment than they ever needed, and they were paying for it early on. So they'd be booking equipment in February for an uplift in operations in maybe May.
Yeah.
And this equipment was sitting there, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap. And we discovered all of it, and there was no idea. And damage was, before this, we did a 3+1+1, because I believed at that time that come the end of 5 years, this equipment wouldn't be worth having.
Yeah.
I could turn that equipment out for another 5, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Because of the quality of the preventive maintenance, the maintenance program, and the distribution of usage.
The usage.
No damage.
Yeah.
And if we do get damage, I insist that it gets taken off and it's repaired and brought back, because I don't want people to get the idea that damage is okay. It's not okay.
No, 100%.
So we do that, but we get so little damage. In the first year of Pullin, there was actually going to be a rebate on the price per turn. And we were still growing. So what I said was, guys, how about not taking the rebate and putting in additional items of equipment to meet with the growth?
Yeah.
So in real terms, until we went to phase 2A, nobody ever paid a penny more year on year, because we were able to put some more in, because they weren't damaging it. So the savings that we were making, we just turned it back in. So the price never changed for the first 3 years until we did phase 2A.
Yeah. And can I ask, Gennaro, do you do like regular reviews of TCO versus Pullin? And
Well, we do, because in most of the airports, pooling doesn't exist. So it's natural that we find ourselves always matching our pooling in Luton compared to the rest of the airports where we work. And the percentage is, I mean, we're talking about, I would say, between a 2% difference in between expense on our revenue. So we're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah.
So 2%.
Revenue.
I thought.
Yeah, about revenue.
Revenue.
Revenue. Yeah.
So we're talking about a lot of money.
Yeah.
A difference between Luton and the rest of the airports. And without counting the fuel, because fuel, that's another item that obviously we're saving a lot. Talking about not having to go backwards and forwards, changing and swapping stands, you find yourself not having to do that, and that reduces the damages. That is on that, obviously at the end of the year it's going to be on the handler's shoulders, and all these together, it makes it worthwhile to everybody to think to work with the pooling. And obviously I would even like to suggest, especially now where the reduction of the traffic is way below 50, 40, 60%. And there's a few airports that it's even 80%, especially the hubs in general. Probably it might be a good idea to start to have that authority, not having that much traffic right now to think about. So it gives you that time to start to think about pooling in other terminals. Like we have Heathrow, for example, that has 4 or 5 terminals. Now they reduced all the operation into 2 terminals. It could be a good idea to think about pooling right now in Terminal 4 when 4 starts to increase or comes up, or even now thinking about Terminal 2 where everything is gathered in Terminal 2. Why not to start to think about pooling now?
Yeah.
And that's the suggestion that I would. That's how much I'm a fan of pooling.
Yeah.
And I would like to see everybody.
And one of the things that surprised me was, especially for a GHA, if you can save anything between 75 and 120 grand a year on fuel costs, I mean, that's straight off the bottom line. That's a big benefit.
Absolutely.
It is, and Chris, not everybody's a fan of pooling, and I think really that's just born out of faulty data. They haven't really taken the time to come and look at this to think, oh well, I'll buy and maintain it. But then what I really was surprised at was how little people knew about their costs when it came to equipment.
Yes, yeah.
They don't know the cost, and they don't know the cost of damage. And you think this idea, you go out and you buy a brand new car and you maintain it, it's yours and it's bound to be cheaper than leasing. Well, actually that's not the case today, is it?
I know. Tell me about it. I wish I'd have done leasing instead of one of the cars I bought. So yeah,
but it's not the case. And I think it's about learning, about what this really means. And I get a lot of airports come to me and repeatedly, and they I think when they go back they struggle with some resistance from the ground handlers. And I say, well, just bring them here, because our guys here on the ground will tell you, and they've told their bosses, we never want to go back to the way it was, because it was just not good enough, and I didn't set out, I would have hoped that it would have delivered cost savings, which it clearly has. That was one of the things but what I didn't want it to do was cost anymore.
Yep.
And if you've got fully depreciated assets, Chris, and you're operating a ramp thing, and I say to you, no, we're going to pool and you're going to get brand new equipment, all the latest safety features, you're going to go, well, that's going to cost me, and I'm going to go, you're dead right. Of course it is, because you're not paying anything at the minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, but look at what you've got for that money, and I can tell you what, I would say there's a few breathing sighs of relief that they don't own it at Luton at the minute.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially now. Yeah, and so it's ironic. Yeah, it's ironic how things can play out.
Oh yeah, I would hope never to. Well, I probably don't have as long left in aviation, but I would hope that nobody ever experiences anything like this again in aviation, because it's been devastating. But, you know, I think setting yourself up correctly and having those things in place, you know, who would have envisaged would be at where we're at.
Yeah.
But I think Pullin's helped. It has helped somewhat anyway.
No, I agree. Now, lads, listen, just as we're coming to the end of the session, what I'd like to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Gennaro, is in your positions, whether it be as a leader of your business or the business you represent, what would you suggest is things that you would commit to help the community and the supply chain be more efficient? And then I'll also ask you, what would you like to receive from the community and the supply chain, the whole industry, in fact, to make things better for everybody? Gennaro, I'll leave it up to you to kick us off.
Well, you're going to ask to Liam first, so you give me time to think.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, Chris, they are really difficult questions, aren't they?
Right.
You know, I think, you know, our supply chain, you know, we've been talking to all of them, and we've been trying to get, you know, to save money, cost reduction in contracts and stuff like that, but looking at other ways that we can pay that back later down the line.
Yeah.
You know, by extending contracts and doing other things. You know, these are things that you can do. Everybody's in pain now. You can't take money of somebody that hasn't got it.
No.
But, you know, what you can do is you can start to defer things and look at things a wee bit differently. And I think there's lots of opportunity in that. I know that that's what I look at. I'm working with all of the suppliers that I have.
Yeah.
And I have been from day one. And, you know, they've all been cooperative. We've all worked together, and we're not feeling the level of pain that we might otherwise do. And, you know, and even for them, it's hard for some of them as well. You know, but what we're trying to do, you know, our grounds maintenance people say, you know, that are in contract, you know, we're trying to keep them in work and at the same time reduce the cost, because we don't have the same level of activity. So these are balances that we reach with them, and then look at saying, you know, we're all going to lose here for this period, but what we'll do is let's tag it on the end.
Yeah.
So that the overall contract's delivered.
Yeah.
And you'll be at the end where you thought you might be.
Yeah.
So that would be the big thing for me, and just really appreciating that we are definitely, whether we like it or not, and whether we mean it or not, but we're definitely all in together. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Different boats, but the same storm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was the second? That was one of them.
Well, that was one of them. So what I was suggesting is, if you were able to come up with three things. Now, like one of the things you've already touched upon is the joint training. And what you guys seem to have done with the Pullin is it makes it easier for training if you've got all the same equipment. So, you know what I'm saying? It cuts down on that particular loss of man hours, and also then the potential damage, and, you know, people not being sure, are they getting into a BMW, then they're getting into a Lada or a Skoda or whatever. No disrespect to either model, but they're different.
Yeah. And I think, maybe Gennaro will do that one there, just have a chat about that, because it affects him.
Oh, yes. I mean, obviously, I think I did think about three things that probably are very, very important. One is the collaboration.
Yeah.
We did speak pretty much about it, but it's never enough, because at the end of the day, it's never enough the amount of collaboration that you can give out to the whole chain of suppliers around an airport. Support from the airport, because I always think that the handlers are always the last and the weakest part of the chain of every single airport, and so much more support from. But this is not addressed to one airport. It's a general thought of mine. So obviously more support, and going back to to give the airport or to see the airport to centralize more the activity. We want safety. We all want safety. Why not centralize it? Why don't we have only one procedure? As Liam said, why 18 cones one aircraft and 3 cones another aircraft? Let's make everything easy. Training becomes easy. People memorize faster what needs to be done. And probably they're more concentrated on the safety than putting 18 comms.
Yep. 100% agree. I think with airports and GHAs, they stay where they're based. Airlines can fly in and fly out and fly off. And I think if the ecosystem of the airport gets together and they all market the airport together for the benefits, that's where they're going to get success in the future. And keeping things simple and sustainable so that all the businesses are able to continue, you know, making some profit, maybe not as much as they'd like, but at least making profit. I think that's the way to do it.
And I think we're seeing that, Chris, you know, here, especially, you know, the last contract here, EasyJet did, you know, it's open book, it's cost, you know, it's cost plus, you know, so really, you know, those are very welcome moves in aviation. And I would like, you know, personally to see a lot more of that. But I would remind handlers too at the same time, you know, when you get that, it's not a pendulum swing the other way. This is now really talking about working together.
Yep.
So when you get that, you know, you should be prepared to give the best of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because, you know, that's what will make that grow and become more common, is that when airlines take that leap into doing that, and you know, they've had in the UK, they've had it pretty much their own way for a very long time. Ground handlers have really struggled. But I think if we can get back to the middle and go, you know what, we are partners and treat it like partners. And I think we've got an edge on that here, Gennaro, haven't we? We you know, these weekly meetings are not talking shops, they're action centered. They have to lead to something. I won't waste my time in a meeting where we talk for an hour and a half and then nothing happens to the next one. And you go into the next meeting and we talk about the same stuff again. So I just find that to be just really wasteful and of no benefit.
Yeah.
And we've achieved a lot by just, you know, writing down the action and following it up and holding each other to account.
On that, Liam, on that, if like just say yourselves now, you know, if you create an airport's community purpose, which is built around standards, rules and services, then you're actually dictating the way everybody, all your tenants have to perform to live up to that airport standards criteria or the community, you know, commitment. And if that's done, everybody knows where they stand. And then carriers, then to a degree, they have to then have a strong question to be able to say, well, I'm sorry, but that doesn't work for us. Because if it can be proven that it works and it's probably better service than anywhere else, then why would they then come in and want their little nuances and little extras? And do you know what I mean? And then they have a different concept of setting an SLA almost with the airport GHAs rather than with a GHA standalone.
Standalone, right. But Chris, that's the whole thing. Everybody's looking at their own garden. They're not looking at a bigger picture. I think now that we are kind of stopped in a certain way, it's time to look at a bigger picture and what we've been looking up to now.
Yeah. You know, one of the greatest lessons I've had in aviation, Chris, and you mentioned it, you mentioned purpose.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were working really hard here, early days of SMS, you know, we were kind of like, I'm talking 2014 and 2015, we're cutting a lot of new ground, we're finding new ways to do this thing. You know, I didn't even know what SMS meant when they, you know, the CA started talking about this thing, and it seemed like, crikey, you know, it's like a unicorn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can never get your hands on one, you know, and nobody could tell me what it was exactly, you know, until one guy at the CAs, you know, I'd been up and down the road to Gatwick, and I'd be going, I need to understand, I want to get a picture in my head of SMS. And I was kind of, because that's how we work, isn't it? If we can't picture something, we can't deliver it. This is where people struggle with safety. You know, everybody talks about safety, but you can't picture safety. But if you start talking to people about doing a great job and operating in a good way, they can picture what that looks like. You know, what's it look like to turn an aircraft around really well.
Yeah.
And you know, there's only one way to turn it around really well, is safely. But the minute you say, how do I turn an aircraft around safely, people are lost because they can't picture that piece.
Yep.
But if you ask them to do a great job, it's different. But you know, I was up and down the road to Gatwick anyway, and this guy said to me in the end, he said, you know, every piece of litter you pick up, every every inspection you carry out, every blade of grass you cut, that's SMS.
Yeah.
You are doing things towards a common goal, a safety goal. It's everything. Every time you stop somebody and speak to them, maybe advise them that what they're doing is potentially leading to a safety event. Anything at all that you do towards that, those little actions that you carry out hundreds of times every day is SMS.
Yep.
And when you start to picture it that way, it becomes a lot easier to understand that, when you all work together with that mindset, that you actually can deliver a lot of very good stuff. And in 2015, this is no lie, I went to one of the team and I said, can you, because we worked really hard and I thought everybody had it. And I went to one of the team and I said, can you tell me why we're here? And he said, well, we're here to make it safe for passengers and for airlines. And nobody really knew. I went round all of them and nobody had a definitive answer. So we didn't really understand our purpose. And that's why I thought what you said was great. It's having a common purpose, but you have to have a defined purpose.
Yep.
And our defined purpose became very simple because it's what we're regulated for. We're here to establish and maintain an environment that's safe for use by aircraft.
Yep.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So
and a purpose.
if we're doing things that doesn't benefit that, don't do it.
Exactly. And everybody messes around with visions and mission statements that no member of staff can understand, but it looks good on a piece of paper. A purpose is something that stands alone for 50 years plus. It's the reason why you do something, and it's the story that people can align themselves with. And then they have a vision or the picture, like you said, and to keep it simple.
And dead simple. And just the beginning of this year, we sat down, we were all in the room here, myself and all of the ground service providers, and we're working really hard with Dr. Sarah Flaherty here and Leah Fenema Hall, and we're working really hard, and we finally got a purpose that we all agreed on. And we never got a chance then after that to get into a but we're going to follow that up because you know what? We got something that people could hang their hat on.
That's it.
Be interested in. And that is, for anybody, it doesn't matter who they are, have a purpose. And if you're in an airport environment, an airside environment, you know what? Have a common purpose.
Yep. And an acronym for SMS is something making sense. Isn't it so easy when you break it down? Something making.
There are people making a fortune out of making that a very complicated process.
Yep. Right.
Like the 18 cones, Liam.
Yeah. Listen, lads, thank you so much. And the one thing that's very obvious is how much you both care about what you do and keeping the airport safe, which is the most important thing. Thank you for your input, your comments, your points of view. Really appreciate it, and wish you all as much success as possible, especially over the next 7 months, because I think it's going to be very, very challenging. There are some words I could use, but maybe not on this podcast.
We've all used them already.
Yeah.
Off records.
Off records, yeah.
But seriously, please God, good luck with everything, and whatever you're able to do to keep the people who've been displaced through no fault of their own, reach out, because it'll be a terrible time for them over Christmas and then into the first half of the year.
We'll certainly make that a goal. I think that's a really good thing to do, and we'll certainly. Yeah. I'll talk about that on Tuesday at our meeting and say how do we do this, because I think it's important. They might be made redundant, but they're still our people, and some of them will have been here for as long as me, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're part of the airport.
Their displacement allows others to continue. And it's like a sacrifice as such. It's a terrible thing for people to have to experience.
Yeah, and that's very true.
It really is.
Yeah. So, lads, good luck. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, lads.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, Liam.